talked about using Plan to Eat to import recipes that you find on various websites, blogs, etc. And now we're going to talk about how to enter a recipe that is not in digital form, something that you might have in a cookbook or on a recipe card passed down from a family member. And so first of all, you want to come to plantoeat.com and then log in. Once you're logged in, you would click Add Recipe. And then I'll show you quickly here the steps that you'll go through. You'll need to create the title, and this is required. And so I'm going to use a sample recipe here that I have. I'm going to tell what course it is. Cuisine, sometimes I mark this and sometimes I don't. This particular recipe that I'm going to enter is just very simple. It doesn't have any ethnic foods in it that I know of, so I guess I could put American, but sometimes I just leave that blank. The source, at this point, I don't have any idea where I got this. It's just a printed out recipe that I found in my bookshelf, and so I'm going to leave that blank as well. The description, you can come back and add that later. Again, that's not required. You can add the prep time if you know it, and the servings if you know it. Now you'll come down here to the ingredients area, and this is where you'll actually input manually the ingredients. So I'll go through one here and show you the specifics, and then I'll add the rest of them quickly. First of all, I have 1 pound of bacon. And in the notes, I'm just going to type what the recipe actually says. And this is in the meat category. You can actually customize what category you want to put this in. For instance, here are the different categories that I have created, or that I've added to, I guess I should say, in my Plan to Eat. I've done these by aisles in my store, and you can do that, or you don't have to if you don't want to, but this is, once you start to use Plan to Eat, you'll find that it's very helpful if you go ahead and mark it by aisles in your store. But for now, we'll just leave it as meat, and then we'll go through and add the rest of the ingredients. Wanted to remind you again that the grocery category is automatically selected for you based on the default systems that the website has, and so that's really nice. For instance, cheddar cheese, it automatically puts that into a dairy category. Although if you know the aisle number in your store and want to mark that for ease of shopping and to make your shopping quick, or if you're sending a family member to pick up the items for you, you could of course determine an aisle number there, but by default that will be selected as dairy. And sometimes the website knows what to select, and sometimes it needs a little bit of help, and you can just easily come in. Let's look at that a moment here. Let's say that dairy is not correct here. So what I would do is click on the little arrow down, and then I can either add a new category that's not already in the system. I can manage the categories. We'll talk about that in a later screencast. I can select one of these others, or I can come down and look at the aisle numbers. These are from a store called Food Lion, and then I've got all the aisle numbers here, and these are my Walmart aisles. But that's where I would come to manage or add categories here in the grocery categories. Now I'm coming down here to the directions, and I'm actually going to have to type in. I can number these if I want, or I can just double space between the sections. So I'll just do the first directions, and then we'll move quickly through the rest. And then we'll fill in the other directions here. You can again just double space, or you can number these. Once you're finished typing your directions, you can come down and add some tags. For this one, I'll just add breakfast. And I'm also going to put Sunday school, because this is a recipe I might take for Sunday school breakfast. If you know the nutritional information, you can add that at this point. You can even add the estimated cost per serving if you'd like to get that detailed. And then you can mark it as a private recipe if you wish, or leave it unmarked if you don't mind if other people on the site see your recipe. And then you just mark Save Recipe. Once my recipe has been saved, I just come back and glance over it, making sure that everything is as correct as possible. You want to make sure you don't have any typographical errors or that anything is misspelled. Just make it as clean as you can. And you can also select to see it numbered if you wish, and the site will actually create some numbers there, or you can just look at it as you typed it with directions. You can also come over here and add a photo if you'd like, and if you import a recipe from a website that has a photo, oftentimes that will be pulled over here for you. But in this case, I just typed in this recipe, so I could add a photo later if I could capture one or remember to capture one after I create the recipe or after I make it. Then I could add that photo, and that just helps me remember what it looks like when I'm looking through all of my recipes later, but that's optional, of course. And then a couple of things you can do with it. You can print it if you want to have it in front of you when you're going to create the recipe, or you can queue it, which puts it into a holding place that will remind you later that perhaps you want to create that recipe. And so once you come back here to recipes, you'll see that there is one in the queue, and you'll also see this recently added recipes, about 15 minutes, and that's helpful when you're trying to plan an entire meal plan for the week. You'll remember some of the recipes that you just added. Sometimes if they weren't up there, they would all get mixed in with the other recipes and you might forget what it was called. So this has been a really helpful feature that's been added recently. So again, we can click on that recipe, it will load again, and that's where we can either print or just glance at the recipe and create it. So I hope this has been a helpful tutorial about how to add a recipe that is not digital. Many of our recipes these days are, but I'm sure you have some cookbooks or tried and true family recipes that you really want to just type in the recipes. So hopefully this has been helpful for you, and good luck as you use the site and plan some great meals for you and your family.